Good to go? Okay. Okay, this is the Town of Woodbridge monthly Board of Finance meeting for the month of November. Today is Thursday, or tonight is Thursday, November 16th. And the first item on the agenda is public comments. Public comments? No? Okay. Item 2, before we consider item 2, I'd like to make a statement that based upon a presentation by the police chief and the fire chief of Woodbridge, we are here to consider the resolution appropriating $2.1 million for improvements to the townwide radio communications system. And again, this sets into motion the funding vehicle, but it's not an approval of the system. That comes from the town meeting, which this will generate. So I just want to make that clear. Okay, so I have a script. I think you all have a copy of it that I'm going to follow. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the $2,100,000 radio communication system, for which the town will be asked to consider and act upon a $2,100,000 bond resolution, a copy of which has been distributed at this meeting. The role of the Board of Finance is to consider the capital expenditure project and make recommendations to the town meeting regarding its acceptance, rejection, or modification. Our options, the board's options, include A, that the foregoing resolution is hereby approved and recommended for adoption by the legal voters of the town. B, that the foregoing resolution is hereby rejected and that the Board of Finance recommends that it not be adopted by the legal voters of the town. And C, that the Board of Finance hereby adopts the foregoing resolution with modifications. And with those modifications, the Board of Finance recommends that the foregoing resolution be adopted by the legal voters of the town with said modifications. So again, is there any discussion on this? Okay, so then I will start by making a motion, and again, these can, if we vote it down, we can go to option B. I'm going to make a motion that we approve option A, that being that the foregoing resolution is hereby approved and recommended for adoption by the legal voters of the town.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Well, you need a second for that?
Paul just did.
Paul just did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just want to say I thought that the presentation was extremely informative and well done, both by the police and the fire departments, and that Tony's presentation about our ability to assume this level of debt compared to what will basically roll off our books and what can roll back on kind of gave me the confidence that we can actually do this. And it's an issue that has been before the town for many years, and it's really time to take care of this. So thank you, Beth, for pushing this.
Welcome. Thank you.
And then also, I believe by acting now, we're saving just in excess of $100,000.
Yeah, if
we can commit by December 15th.
Right.
Correct.
The town would have to vote by then.
Right.
I'd also just like to add, and I say this having worn a few hats in this process, I was a representative on the ad hoc committee from the Board of Selectmen, and then by default became, along with Paul, an ad hoc, I don't know what I was. Anyway, I've been on this committee a while. And I think that the presentation that we saw the other night was the tip of the iceberg. An enormous amount of work and thought has gone into this over a period of a number of months. I want everyone... Years even, that's correct. And I think this has been a thoughtful process. I think it's been a very long process. I think it's taken us all a long time to sort of understand this and how important it is. And I'm delighted that the moment is right and that we can now put it before the voters to make this happen, because I think it represents an enormous amount of work on the part of our first responders and our public works department, and it's an important thing to have happen.
And it's also important to add that we took a vote as the ad hoc committee and unanimously voted to recommend to both boards that we move forward with this initiative.
Good point.
Okay, anything else? So let's vote on the on option A. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous.
You have to do a roll call.
Oh, one by one? Susan?
Oh, I vote yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's it.
Okay. I declare the motion adopted. Okay. So we're all set with that. So now, has a date been established for a town meeting?
Yes. We attempted December 5th.
December
December
5th. So
5th.
that's our capital budget.
Right, so we
So
thought,
we'll all be here anyway.
so we're going to do it in the Center Gym at 7:30, following the
Oh,
capital
okay.
So
budget
capital budget will be
presentation.
from 6 to 7:15.
We're all going to be there anyway.
And then
So-
7:30 is the.
Okay, so we're gonna meet there, not here?
That's up to you.
Here.
We thought we'd meet here
We're gonna meet
Okay,
here?
and then go over,
And
okay.
and then go over,
Okay,
yeah.
So December 5th?
Mhm.
So December 5th.
5.
You meet here at 5?
At
No, 6.
6,
6.
At 7:30.
Then
7:30
is over
across the
there.
street at the Center
Right.
Gym.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 departments that night, the fire, public works, waste management, and fire, so.
Okay.
Correct.
Item 3. Mr. Genevieve.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I have our monthly report for the first through October, and actually it results in just a pretty much an even, a slight deficit of $20,000, but for all intents and purposes, it's just about a even result. And that gives our fund balance at just below $5 million, or 10.3% of our projected expenditures. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. First is our interest income is doing well, surplus of $50,000 there. Intergovernmental revenues, what I did was I put together a spreadsheet which is attached to this report, and that indicates the difference between what the state has adopted as their budget, and I'm just going to get to that.
Yeah.
It's at the back of the, Board of Ed.
Oh, okay. And that's town budget was $1.26 million, and the state is going to be just over $1 million. So there's a shortfall of $242,000. And the biggest reduction was the revenue sharing grant, which was basically a grant from last year that was a percentage of the sales tax, which was supposed to be a grant that we received as a percentage of the sales taxes, so that our revenue was tied to how well the state was doing. So that, but then the state took that and incorporated that in the general fund. So as you can see, that's where that is. So with that deficit, the Amity Regional School District is also proposing to return $553,000 in surplus funds from last year's operation. So in this projection, I reserved the $220,000 for next year's budget, which was what we have in this year's budget. Obviously, you can make that adjustment if you feel you need to in the process, but just for continuity's sake, so you don't have a shortfall in that line next year. The remainder, $332,000, would be recorded as an unbudgeted revenue in this year, which would, of course, offset that intergovernmental deficit. And our expenditure side, that is a typo on the Board of Education. That should be October 31st. The report from 2017, the Woodbridge Board of Education is reporting a deficit of $160,000, or a little less actually. At the end of the fiscal year, that's down considerably from last month's, which was in mid-3, if you remember correct. I don't remember exactly. $330.
Yeah.
So they continue to go in the right direction there, and so I think that's good news. In addition to that, which is not in this report, is if you remember in the budget process, the Amity had increased their budget at the last minute to reflect the way special education was funded by the state, and the way that it has traditionally worked is that they would receive special ed funding through their excess cost grant, and we would receive ours. The governor had proposed that the town receive all the money, and so Amity had increased their budget to account for the fact that they were not going to receive special ed excess cost money. Have you gone through this in the? You're going to go through this later. All right, I'll let you get to it. That's not in this projection.
This was This was against my advice they did this.
Okay.
And they ended up.
It's a couple $100,000.
It's gonna be over 300 we're getting back.
So
I
that's
was
an
gonna tell
additional
you-
300.
I was gonna tell you, this is all gonna be, we're not gonna get it back, they're gonna reduce our. well,
They're gonna
let me-
reduce our expenditure.
Let me do it
You
now.
wanna do- you wanna- yeah.
Because I was gonna tell you, that shortage is not gonna happen. Basically, what happened was, we had gotten the Amity budget down to about a 1.8% increase last
Right,
year.
right.
So we were very happy with that. I walk into the meeting the following week and it was up to 2.3 or 2.35%. I said, what happened? Well, we decided that the excess cost grant, we're not gonna get that money, so we added $1,035,000 to the budget. I said, why did you do that? He says, well, I said, we've discussed this townwide and we've decided, there's no way of knowing what the state's gonna do. Don't do it.
Right.
Well, again, we're advisory. The Amity Finance Committee is an advisory, so we can't force them to do anything. And the brains to be decided this was the thing to do, and I said, it's wrong, don't do it. But so when the budget passed, I went to this meeting the other night, baited to see if they were going to bring this up, and they knew I was going to be coming with my guns loaded, so they went to the auditors, and I'll read this to you. So basically, they included $1,035,000. They took $1,035,000 out of their budget of
Right.
revenue,
Right.
and now they're going to have that. So this is from Terry Loomis, the Director of Finance. I discussed with the auditors last week how to handle the large revenue surplus we will have when the state grant payments are received. Two options were discussed. The option I recommend is to reduce the March and June member town allocations. Once the district receives, I guess they receive it in two increments.
It's two installments.
75 and 25.
Right.
Once the district receives the 75% payment at the end of February, we can reduce the March allocation for each town accordingly, which for us would be about $225,000. That's how much less we'll pay them.
Right, got it.
Then repeat the same process in June when the final grant payment comes in at the end of May, early June. So that will be, the total is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $305,000. So we're going to basically, we now have $305,000 in our budget that we didn't
Right.
anticipate.
And that's not included in this?
No, that's not in here. And
Right.
I asked her for a number, she said, I can't give you a number until we get the number from the state.
Right.
But she
Roughly
said it's gonna be in
300,000.
that range,
Yeah.
so we found 300,000+ this week, which will take care
So
of a
now,
lot of this.
on the flip side of that, I don't think we're finished with the state, and I know they're already having projections
Oh, yeah.
on revenue shortfalls, so we'll see what happens. But at least we have that.
Oh, yeah.
to help
Well,
offset
that's-
any
That's a
future
real
problems.
number, it's gonna be in
Yeah.
the 300,000 range,
Yeah.
so. And all they had to do was not do it, but anyway.
So-
But anyway, it's like, they give us a savings account.
Right. Okay. So that's my report.
Okay. Any questions for Tony on the monthly report? How about the audit status? It should be just about completed, right?
Yeah, we're completed with our audit. We're waiting for our OPEB report from our actuary. That's the last piece of the audit. And then we should have a draft, I think by Thanksgiving.
Alrighty, Woodbridge Board of Ed, as I'm seeing you'll report on this, but the number came down significantly from the 300,000+ it was.
152, yeah.
Now it's targeted at 152, 134, so,
Yep.
which happens.
Yeah.
These things start to come to fruition as we get into the year, so we'll wait for you on that.
State budget update we
State budget
just did.
update you did.
Yeah.
Okay, capital budget meetings, as we discussed, there are two. Thursday, November 30th, and Tuesday, December 5th, which will also be the town meeting. So we'll do our meeting here at 6 o'clock, and then if it's not freezing or raining or whatever, we'll walk over to the center for
That's
the
right.
town meeting.
Right.
All right, any questions on Tony report? All right, funding requests. We have a couple. And they are line item transfers. Let me just get them. Okay, the first is It's to buy a truck for animal control, and it's a line item transfer from some various accounts to make up $9,329.92, and the request is to fund a replacement vehicle for animal control. The 2005 Explorer has over 178,500 miles, and the transmission has failed. So I will move acceptance of line item transfer 1718-05 in the amount of $9,329.92.
Second?
Okay, discussion, or do you have anything to add to that? Tony?
No, that's
I guess
pretty
the
much
total
it.
purchase price
Is a little under 40.
right,
yeah.
and you have money in the account, and this,
Yeah, it was just, we were short and
This
it
gets
died
it-
prematurely.
this gets it
As
over
you can
the
see,
top.
it's
but obviously,
seen its day, that
you know, you've
truck.
seen the truck, you've
Yes,
dealt with the repairs,
yeah,
and you feel it's necessary.
yes, absolutely.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next is another line item transfer in the police department. And again, it's to purchase vehicles. I guess what they had budgeted was a little short.
There was a miscommunication when we did the budget, and it was short.
Okay. So I will move acceptance. So these vehicles are ordered, or they're in already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was the intention to always
These
buy
are-
two. It was
These
just.
are SUVs now they're getting,
Correct,
right?
yeah,
Seem like a lot more practical.
yeah.
I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 1718-06 in the amount of $4,746.15. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
So based on Tony's up-to-date report, we've only spent $15,000 of the $200,000 in contingency,
Right.
which is good.
Yep.
Okay. Could you give those to Karen, please?
Sign that other letter.
I did. The letter for the bond issue? Yeah.
Thank you.
Make sure, if not, I'll sign. Okay.
Yes.
Funding requests, approval of minutes. Okay, we have the minutes of our last Board of Finance meeting of October 24th, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of October 24th, 2017's meeting as presented. Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay, any corrections, suggestions, anything? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye? Opposed, abstained? Okay. Moving right along. Mrs. Heller.
Mr. Giglietti. Hello. Just so you know, we've been working on our website, and Sheila printed this off. Do you guys have it at your, yep. And anyone that wants to can go to the website and see the presentation that we had last week of the police and fire. And I'll let everyone know tomorrow. We're going to send out a blast to everyone that has given us their emails, so they'll all get this, and so they can go there, tune in, and hear the presentation. So I just wanted to let you know about that. I have 3 pages of First Selectmen's report, but I'm not going to do that to you like I do with the Board of Selectmen. I have 12 events that I went to this past month, and the only thing I just want to let you know is we're getting to the final stages of testing of the microgrid. And we were originally going to do the ribbon cutting on December 7th, but it's probably going to be scheduled for sometime in January. Stay tuned, we'll let you know. That's exciting. And we've been working quite vigorously with the Connecticut Economic Resource Center, also known as CERC, and we'll have somewhat of a small financial proposal to get our Economic Development Commission some help. And we're going to explore how they have some ideas for potential that can be harnessed to produce bottom line results for our economic development efforts. We need to grow the grand list, we all know that, and we're going to try to get working on that quickly. CERC will be at the Board of Selectmen meeting on December 13th. If you want to tune in, you can see that. I told you about Sheila putting that stuff up on the website, and I think that's it, other than just wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Same to you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready to do my agenda here.
Liaisons.
Yeah, it's liaison. Okay, liaison. I gave you the biggest part of my Amity liaison. As far as things are going well, they did have a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a, I think it was a 2 or an emergency. The water line into the building was leaking and broke and whatever, and they were having trouble finding out where it was. It ended up being underground, so they had to shut the system down and go in there and figure it out. And eventually they were able to fix it, but they had to fix it above ground, so they had to go up and around to the tune of about $40,000. So, but it was an emergency and had to be done. So, as far as their operations go, they now are operating after 4 months. They have a surplus of $867,000. A large part of that, again, is one of my pet peeves, which they hate hearing me talk about it because I've been saying it right along, and that's their health insurance. They they are self-insured, and they budget $376,000. Well, it's $4.5 million or $376,000 a month for medical claims, and they never hit it. So in the first 4 months of the year, they have a surplus in that of $384,000. I tried to get them to lower it last year, and they refused to. Actually, they increased it. So it continues to be a. But you know what? We're aware of it. It's part of their surplus, and as happened last year, they returned their surplus. So, but I'm constantly looking at it, and they swear that they're going to have. And it's an awful thing. They swear though that statistics show they're going to have a bad year or a bad run, and they're going to eventually use it all up. But
Did you say $4.3 million a month?
no, 4.5 is the total.
Oh.
376,000 a month.
A month, okay.
They budget,
That makes more sense.
and then they compare that to the actual.
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
like I said, they're not even close. So we'll keep our eye on that. They talked about maybe adding it to the reserve and have more in reserve, but I don't know. Whatever. Paul, do you have anything?
I wasn't able to attend the last police commission meeting.
Okay.
I think because the radio committee meeting. But
All right, no problem.
Yeah, that's, I've been traveling a little bit, so.
Yes, I guess so.
But I'll have a report for the next meeting.
Okay. Susan?
Fire Commission had a heck of a time trying to schedule a meeting this past 3 or 4 weeks. They were meeting this coming Monday night,
Okay.
the 20th.
Yeah, so Recreation met towards the end of October was their last meeting. Talked a lot about a couple of capital items. Some were kind of small scale, like replacing the deck chairs at the pool, things like that. The biggest item was the timing on when to resurface the pool. So initially they were going to drain the pool at the end of this summer, and I think the capital budget had an FY21 for the resurfacing of the pool, which was about $75,000. There was some talk about how that didn't make sense because you have to drain the pool first anyhow, so you would be incurring that cost twice. So in their capital plan, they pushed the draining of the pool and the resurfacing both up to FY19. So drain the pool, kind of have an assessment of whether resurfacing is done or not. They said the fact that the money is in the capital budget doesn't necessarily mean that it would be spent, depending on the assessment of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw your
Then I
face.
need to
We all look confused, right?
I was
I understand, it's not your fault.
perplexed, right?
Right.
'Cause that's.
Based on the results of the test after you drain the pool can vary widely depending on
Right.
what you need to do.
Right.
For the
The
pool.
point was
We're
they
gonna
would
have to
know
talk
more
further.
information
Once they
upon
drained it.
draining.
Right.
They're gonna have to come back before they
Right.
schedule anything.
Yeah, there's a
like
lot
that.
more
That's-
that's going to
Yeah,
be decided
right.
on the pool.
Apologies.
Yeah, no,
No,
you
it's okay.
weren't on the board last
Yeah,
year. It was
yeah,
a
this was a big-
heated topic.
Big item.
How much money we're going to spend on the pool, right?
Yeah, no worries.
You'll be part of it this time.
So I'm just thinking they're considering that. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, of course, they have to do it.
Yeah.
They have to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we'll see.
if the pool's to remain open,
Depending on what we do.
it has to be done.
Correct. But there's no decision beyond this
Right.
next season, so,
But they're thinking about it.
yeah,
Right.
thank
And
you.
then the other items for FY19 are the tennis courts at Beecher North, which apparently are closed as of the end of October because they're dangerous. I've tried to plan them. The cracks are like this big.
Really?
Wow.
So that's a $24,000 item in FY19 in the capital plan. And then the only other one above 20 is the ice rink. which I guess they want to replace the asphalt. Probably going to use the wrong term, but the base is asphalt, which I
Yeah,
guess
it is.
doesn't work well for an ice rink.
Right.
So they want to replace it with concrete. So that was moved up, I think, from 22 to 19 to do it the right way. It'll last longer, have more long-term benefits.
Okay. Sandy?
I attended the Library Commission meeting on November 13th, and I want to remind everybody the Friends of the Library is having a mini book sale on December 2nd, and these are kind of high-end books, good for gifts, so I encourage everybody to go. The Friends were very pleased with how mini golf went. They actually raised over $6,000.
Wow.
And but you have to remove the amount that it costs to actually set it up, which is a chunk. But they'll be giving over $3,000 to the library from this. So I think it was very well received. Their Policy and Personnel Committee is actually going through all of their policies and getting staff input and updating those. They're in the process of that. They're in the throes of getting their LED lights replaced all throughout the library. I guess
Yep.
building maintenance is
They are, yeah.
working their way through, and now that it's cold outside, they don't do so much outside work. They're doing more inside work. And they had a new boiler installed. It's running and working well, so they're
right.
very pleased about that. They would like to get at some point an update about the study or the plan for the HVAC for the library.
Right.
So
understand
just
I understand that's close to being finished.
Oh,
hopefully.
okay. All
And
right.
we should have an update next
great.
month, I think.
Okay. And the Library Commission had actually, it was through Eric and the staff, they want a new logo for the library. So they've had one designed, and they're going to pick their final one by consulting with the staff. So we'll have a new look for a library logo. And then I attended the Woodridge Board of Ed Finance Committee meeting, and as you've all heard, the projected deficit last month was $338,000, and due to changes in people's health insurance needs, it's down to the $152,000. So that's kind of a permanent piece there. It doesn't mean that they won't have increases in other areas, but they're very pleased with that. Participation in the cafeteria is up, and overall things are going well. They are really wrestling with their budget for next year, and are going to try very hard to meet that 2% increase. I will say that they will probably need to isolate increased costs related to the increased enrollment. And so they're taking 2% above what their approved budget was, but that may not incorporate the increased costs associated with having to add another classroom. But they're really carefully looking at all options in terms of reducing costs and actually increasing revenue a little bit too. So now, the Library Commission is changing their meeting time. They're moving it from 6 o'clock to 6:30. So I will not be able to continue on the Library Commission because the Board of Ed Finance Committee starts at 7. So I'm going to need for somebody else to be the Library Commission liaison. And I'm willing to do a switch as long as I can fit it into my schedule.
What night do they meet?
They meet Monday nights. It's the second Monday at 6:30, starting in January.
I would do it, except the Fire Commission, I think, meets at 6 on Monday nights.
Right.
So it's the
Then
same
the third
problem.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the second.
This is the second Monday.
Oh, I could do it,
Okay.
I think.
They'd be very happy to have you.
Well, they don't know that yet.
Oh, I know they would be very happy.
And I have
to have
Amity
you.
that night too, so it's a problem for me.
Karen, could I ask you to send me an email? I won't remember.
Here are the dates, so you can
Oh, good.
take a look.
Matt, what is the meeting dates for this?
You want to approve?
And there is one in January, but they're fixing that now. So okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much,
And in your
Susan.
package also was a list of proposed meeting dates. If you could just look it over, and when we meet in December, we'll vote on it to acknowledge it. Okay? Is there anything else? I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
That was fast, huh?
Aye. And I will wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
To everybody.
All right.
Are we done?
Thank you.
Because I have
Thank
a
you.
question for you.